Hello everyone, I'm Sameera and I lead the people team at Aftershoot. So my mom would like try to feed me in the middle of calls, like the client would come and I'd just be like, I'm in an interview. Like, how is that happening? AI bots that will answer your questions that you don't need a human mind for. When you say people success, people internalize that, okay, when I'm speaking to this person, it will be more than just superficial things. It will be about my performance. It will be, okay, how do I get to the next level? It will be about what they're feeling, how the entire culture can improve. So I don't think it's just a rebranding activity. Out of the 100 people that you end up interviewing in this space, 70% people will be barely making 5 LPA, 6 LPA, 7 LPA, versus the others who have been able to contribute to the organization more than or be the sounding board for their founders are at a completely different range of pay parity, right?
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 5 of the screening room. Today we're delighted to be joined by Sameera from Aftershoot. Sameera, maybe very short intro into what you're doing right now, and then we can get into how you got here.
Thank you so much, Jen, for having me and for accommodating my schedule. Hello, everyone. I'm Sameera and I lead the people team at Aftershoot. Aftershoot is a photography SaaS company. And it's only been 6 months since I joined Aftershoot. Before this, I was with a company called InFeedo, which is an HR tech company, and I was with them for about 6 years.
Very good. What are the set of steps that led you here?
That's an interesting question, Jayant. My whole experience before Aftershoot had been with B2B enterprise SaaS company, and you're running one now, and
Yeah.
it's a very different ball game. Like the way you operate, the way the sales team is, the way the whole, the DNA of the company is. So I had completed 6 years at InFeedo, which is a long time, given the startup ecosystem and how fast things move. So I knew it was time for a change, and the founders and I had been discussing that, think I've done everything possible at Fido and I could possibly explore. While thinking about what it is I wanted to do next, I figured it had to be something more creative, things I had not done before. And when Harshit, the CEO of Aftershoot, reached out, I was very intrigued by what they were building, which was one in the creative space. They had gotten immense growth in like 2, 3 years. They had never had a people team. All of this was really organic, a bunch of really passionate people building with their heads down, like sort of an underdog situation. And it was a product led growth. So there's no sales team whatsoever. And I think that kind of inspired me to think that, okay, everything that I had learned about a certain industry, I'd have to change. So the challenge seemed very interesting, and like I told you before, it's the leap of faith, and
Yeah.
it's same with Aftershoot.
So we were discussing off before we started, right? So I was telling Sameera about how I started my journey doing something in the camera rental space, and then I'm doing HR tech. And your previous role was in HR tech, and then now you're doing something here. But you're also telling me about how you studied psychology, and then you also wanted to use some elements of that in your job. So how did that come about?
Yeah, like I said early on, I knew that I wanted to be part of something that kind of impacts or creates a good organization culture. The research paper I wrote was the perception of organization culture in different companies, right? Like, what do people perceive it as versus what the company thinks they are doing, which I found very interesting. And I got to learn. I studied large companies back then, like Google and TCS, and really big companies. And I got to learn a lot on how people looked at HR in general. So I started carving out a role for myself, which back then was too early. People were not really focused on culture as much back in the day in 2014 or 15. But I'm so glad that at least the startup ecosystem and generally people have become more aware that a people team's role is not just doing the bare minimum, but actually questioning the larger strategy, contributing to how the founders think, contributing to what people should be doing, how to upskill, how to get them to learn, how to keep people motivated. So I think from a psychology standpoint, it's very applicable today than it was before when HR was looked at just administrative processes.
Yeah, actually, we've seen this right over the past say 10 years. Like you said, HR sounds like a very transactional, a very sort of dry kind of topic. People success versus HRs. Is it just like a rebranding? Is it just a nicer term, or do you have to shift the way you think and operate?
Actually wrote about this on an Medium article, just like many other functions, like customer support is now customer success. Uh, HR has also gone through a lot of evolution, right? That we don't really talk about. Like I had this conversation with one of my team members who 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 is just used to saying HR, tell HR this. I have to correct them that when you say HR, people in their mind assume that when I speak to this HR person, I will only ask them about logistics or payroll or something very superficial. In today's time, there is AI for that. AI bots that will answer your questions that you don't need a human mind for. But when you say people success, people internalize that, okay, when I'm speaking to this person, it will be more than just superficial things. It will be about my performance. It will be, okay, how do I get to the next level? It will be about what they're feeling, how the entire culture can improve. So I don't think it's just a rebranding activity. And just to be clear, even today, so many people in this space, there are still lots of people who do HR work. And honestly, Jayant, you will be able to see the difference between somebody who just does HR versus somebody who does people success in the pay scale.
Yeah.
Uh,
Got it.
I'm surprised that out of the 100 people that you end up interviewing in this space, 70% people will be barely making 5 LPA, 6 LPA, 7
Mhm.
LPA, versus the others who have been able to contribute to the organization more than or be the sounding board for their founders are at
Mhm.
a completely different range of pay parity. And I
Got
think
it.
that is the difference we are talking about. And that is what the next level for people success is.
Do you think this evolution is sort of, it is a time evolution over the past decade, things have evolved, or does it also depend on the kind of organizations you worked at?
I think it's both. This is the future of all HR roles, in my opinion, because if we think about it, a lot of things are going to get automated. Anything that is repeatable as a process will get automated at some point. What you need HR for is the human aspect of things, because human resources, we don't look at people as commodities anymore. Jent, in the hiring world and in the talent world, we've all seen that it keeps shifting between an employer's market to an employee's market, right? The shift keeps happening. Sometimes there is a huge supply, sometimes there is like a crazy shortage of good talent. And for that, I think thoughtful people leadership is really important. To your question, everybody would have to evolve to being focusing on people's success. And the companies that still are operating in the HR mindset would eventually get AI to replace a bunch of the manual processes that they're doing. So I think it would be a forced function, and I hope people adapt before that happens and nobody
Yeah.
has to lose jobs.
First is demand side, then becomes supply side, and there's this sway, right? If we go back to a few years ago, it was purely dominated by people, the talent side. One other thing that happened then was obviously remote work. And so we've seen this swing during the pandemic, there was chaos, and now things seem to have subsided, right? Back then, is there something that you thought of remote work, which you now think is completely wrong?
This is a very interesting question. I have been working remotely for the last 6 years now. So back in the day at InFeedo, I remember I would follow companies like Automatic and Zapier, who are champions of remote work, right? And I would tell Tanmay, who's the CEO of InFeedo, that, we should become a remote company. And he'd be like, are you crazy? That's never going to happen. And I'd be like, but everyone can remote work. It's not so hard. So I used to believe that remote work was for everybody and it was very easy. But today, I don't think so. I don't think remote work is for everybody. Some people are meant to work in an office environment. Some people, for example, your personality types dictate how you want to work. Extroverts, if you put extroverts in a room and get them to just work from home, they'll hate their job and they'll, hate the entire situation. So don't think work from home is for everybody, and it requires a lot of discipline to actually kind of form your routine. So yeah, I think I changed my mind there.
Okay, so then let's sort of double down on this. I can think of a few different dimensions to look at, right? One is you said the mentality of the person, extrovert versus introvert. The other could be the role, what kind of a role you're working for. The other thing could also be the company's processes. Which of these do you think matter the most to determine whether remote will be successful or not? Is it the person, is it the company, or is it the role?
I think in that order, I think the person has the most amount of weightage when it comes to
Yes.
making remote work, right? Which is the discipline, whether they're interested to do it or not, whether they require people, like what gives them energy. Is it people or is it being by themselves, right? So the person really dictates how it works. For remote work, Jayant, routine is the most important thing. Like you cannot take that for granted. For example, when I remote work, I treat this as my temple. When I started remote work, it was so funny that the family was not used to it, right? They were like, what is she always on call?
Yeah.
So my mom would like try to feed me in the middle of calls. Like the hand would come and I'd just be like, I'm in an interview. Like how is that happening? So I think over the years that had to be said that just because I'm not going to office does not mean I'm not working. This is my space. So today no one will enter.
Yeah.
My office work is my office work. No one will dare to enter. It's like when I'm like maybe lunchtime, I go out, I come back in, and then after work, I'm available again, right? So I treat that as a very sacred thing. So the routine is really important, and setting expectations with the people around you is also really important.
The fact that you are working remotely, does that not lead to tensions if, it's not a company policy? Are there not jealousies involved?
Often, right? Like, I think that's a very good question. And often that comes up, but how can the head of people be
I
remote? Isn't that crazy? So I think a transparent conversation always helps. That why it is the case, and the fact that I'm present there a lot also helps. The reason why it makes sense from an aftershoot perspective is we still have 30-40% of the people who are remote, and there is no one who's empathizing how they work and how detached they are. So I think from that perspective, it kind of helps in creating the cadences to meet up, to creating routines or setting up processes. But yes, whenever this ever comes up, it's dealt with very transparently that there's no way.
don't you just say, look, I am the head of people success, so deal with it.
I wish.
So you actually wish you say that, but you don't, right?
Yeah. In my head, I'm like, why? Why are you
Yeah,
asking?
I've answered this so many times. I don't want to go down this route again. But okay, so you're talking about remote, and that's sort of many people think of that as a perk. Employee wellness is also, a perk. What do you think we should do, right? So beyond the usual gym membership and whatever meditation apps, what is one thing that you've implemented that has actually moved the needle on how people feel at work, whether remote or in person?
Jen, to be very honest, all the perks that people end up putting on their careers page are extremely superficial and very surface level, right? So I do not think adding a gym membership or adding pickleball or adding, I don't know, any sort of food coupons would move the needle. What actually matters is if your company has good managers, a clear leadership vision, a good strategy, whether they celebrate wins well, whether it's a safe space, whether I see myself grow. I think in the end, it is these things that make a good company and end up moving the needle. I could put, I could have 100 perks, and there are many companies that do that. But if in the end, if I'm unable to see my career grow, or if my manager is really terrible, people will leave. There is no way you can retain somebody because there is some coupons that will help you get like some dopamine for a short period of time. So yeah.
But I mean, you're absolutely right. There's no doubt about it. But if you want to attract talent, do you have to do some sort of this?
I think you have to pay well, especially if you want to attract. Like in our case, and we were also discussing what is the hardest role to hire for, etc., right? In my opinion, that in most companies we try to hire the top 5% of the talent in that particular role, which is already hard because there's so much competition. If you're speaking to a person today, that person is talking to three other companies. So one, I think, and often when I ask them, okay, what are your top three decision making parameters, how are you going to decide between all of these, people often say the role, the team and the people that they are talking to, and of course, the holistic nature of compensation,
Yeah.
generally what is in it for them. Because as much as we might say, oh, they care about cash, people don't see themselves working for the rest of their lives, not in
Mhm.
this ecosystem. So I think it's very important that your salary benchmarking is done well in a
Mhm.
way where there is wealth creation for everybody.
Yeah.
It has to be well thought of. So I would think these things are important.
Yeah. I've actually thought about this, right? Because I've seen people work, especially at larger companies, they get lots of perks. They will get lots of gifts and whatever, right? This is for your work from home set and stuff like that. Even if 50% of the monetary value of all that went as pure cash as their salary, I think people would celebrate that, because in many cases, all these gifts that you get, they get gifted away, right? You don't use them at home. In many cases, they probably get thrown away. Instead, if you could just pay cash, I think people would be much happier because they can deploy it wherever they want.
I have a counterpoint to that. I don't think it's not a or if or situation, because I think if you give cash every time you could give like a branded merch, you are
Hmm.
taking away the opportunity for your company to be seen by different people. Like a product with your branding is more space for people to see and remember,
Yeah, but
have brand recall.
I've seen this happen at like Amazon and Microsoft. Are they really looking to build brand awareness? I'm talking about very large companies.
Okay. I mean, from a startup standpoint, it's different. Yeah. I think from a large company standpoint,
Yeah.
it's a different ball game altogether. I don't think they want to spend as much. They'd probably get a large deal.
Deal. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and it would make zero sense to like give people 300 rupees instead of the, let's say, a
Yeah.
mug or whatever. So,
Yeah. Yeah. You talked about hiring and difficulty with especially the top roles, right? So which role has been the absolute hardest for you to hire for, and what finally cracked the code there?
when it comes to non-tech roles, I think, like I said, all roles, if you're looking for the top talent, it takes longer than you'd think. But generally, I've seen from a non-tech standpoint, product marketing managers are super hard to find. I call them unicorns because
Hmm.
it's fairly a new role. It didn't always exist. In the last, I think, 10 years or so, people started actually thinking about it. A lot of companies started adopting it as a bridge between product and marketing and making sure, the everything that goes live is known by everybody. So I think that is a very hard role to crack. And the way that we've been able to close it has been through our network to different communities, making sure that you're part of every single community that has this small group of people that are working on that. More often than not, for non-tech, I think, and for tech, I think it's your ability to maintain long-term relationship with these people. For example, somebody may not want to join you today. 6 months from now,
Yeah.
it may be a thing. So, being able to kind of have that rapport and eventually play the long game, I think that kind of helps.
Tell me you're working for a PLG company without telling me you're working for a PLG company is I'm finding it difficult to hire product marketing managers. I think this is clearly because this is what your company requires right now.
Yeah, I mean, at InFeedo, we would need one product marketing manager. At
Hmm.
Aftershoot, we need like six. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you brought up non-tech, right? Because again, I agree with you there, because with tech, it's fairly standardized. If you're hiring a Python developer, I think people have been hiring Python developers for decades now. So
correct.
there is a path there. And if it's
And there are
something new,
assessments.
there
It's
are
very
assessments. Yeah,
clear, right? Like
yeah.
from that, like from tech, I think the hardest role to hire for me today is machine learning engineers, especially with computer vision, which is another unicorn, right? Like very few companies are doing that. We try to do everything. We try to run hackathons. We are currently live with a hackathon with Hacker Earth, where
Hmm.
we have some 10,000 people participating in a problem statement. We try to make sure that we are sponsoring a bunch of these close knit events in Bangalore and participating in a lot of college events. So I think when the pool is small, you have to become a part of the pool. Try and figure out what the scene is.
You mentioned this is in Bangalore, and you also told me earlier that Delhi is like the HQ right now. What if I were to ask you the culture differences between the team there and team here? Is there anything discernible or not really?
I think you're asking me this 6 years late.
Mm-hmm.
because I did when I was in Bangalore for about 3.5 years. Then I moved to Gurgaon. When I did that for InFeedo, it was an absolute culture shock. I could not
Uh-huh.
believe what was happening to me in terms of just how people showed up to work, the kind of conversations they had, their
Mm-hmm.
priorities in life. It was very different. But I think today, especially the tech world, is very similar when it comes to Bangalore and Delhi. There isn't that much of a difference. A few cultural nuances, but I wouldn't say it's that broad. We've hired a bunch of people who moved to Delhi. We've hired people from Delhi who are in Bangalore. I think it is quite manageable today.
Okay, got it. Okay, so we'll move to a different dimension. You've championed women pursuing their ambitions, right, at all life stages. Can you speak to a moment when you saw someone almost walk away from their career, and then what specifically helped them stay and then thrive?
This actually takes me back a couple of years. This has happened like twice. And once it was a close peer of mine who was on a maternity break. And just before coming back to work, they decided not to continue. They felt a lot of pressure when it came to them from their family that made them feel that, okay, maybe I should just take care of the baby and not, join the workforce. And I remember getting on a call with them and just speaking to them and hearing them out and telling her that if you need a little more time, I think you should take it. But if you pause this version of yourself, maybe in the future you'll resent it. I don't know. I can't be in your place right now, but you take some more time, but don't give up on something you've built so much, right? And she did come back after a little bit of an extra break, and she absolutely thrived in her job, and we're in touch even now. uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always good to see when people are thriving in something they thought they wanted to give up on it. I think that happens a lot to people. Being a mother and that whole side is so taxing and exhausting and like emotionally taxing for women. And it's really important for companies to have flexible policies so that they come back and they feel comfortable enough to kind of even to have that chat that is it okay if my role can be shifted a little bit, if I can get a little extra time. And that really helps in creating a safe environment for women to come back after the maternity break.
Got it. As a bit of an offshoot to this, what do you think founders, especially male founders, and early stage startups like ours, maybe, what can we do to foster this environment, right? So you talked about policies, so we can have that. For example, you said she was planning on not coming back and had a conversation with her. That would have been a bit of a heart to heart. Maybe you already knew that person. And of course, the fact that same gender, you would have been able to delve a little deeper. But if it was, I was in that position, I may not have had that conversation. So what can and I may have lost that person, right? The company. So what can founders at, up to Series B kind of startups, what can they do to help retain talent, female talent?
Having that rap in a small team, I always think that founders do have the leverage to have that rapport with a lot more people than you imagine, right? Like I know a bunch of founders who still take interviews at 500 people, 1000 people mark. Right. So I think it's about your priorities. Like each founder would know what they want to prioritize. And if it is somebody that you value, you would figure out that, okay, maybe a chat would help. And it's not about, I don't think it's about being the same gender, a connection, but it is more from being there and
Hmm.
listening to them. I think opening that channel and having that two-way channel is more important. That, hey, would you like to have a conversation? I'm happy to hear your thoughts. And
I
then
see.
something can always spring up from there.
Okay. All right. So we do this with every podcast. We are an AI company, and so I'm mandated to ask you questions on AI. Can you tell me one specific thing you've done with AI in your own role, and you've gone like, oh wow, this is really useful?
Okay, interesting. A bunch of things actually, but I just for everyone to know, if you make cold calls to me and your first line is AI product, I will not
Yeah.
entertain the phone call. It never
Hmm.
works. If you drop me an email where it's AI product, would most likely not get a reply because it's become a buzzword. And if you're not telling me what you're solving, it's as good as nothing, right? So what we're using AI in, we recently got Kula AI for our ATS system, and it has something called AI screening, where like 80% of the applications get rejected in the first go, so you get to only see the most relevant ones. The other thing is Amber itself. I think Amber is a very, very smart chatbot. So think about it this way, Jen. You as a founder would like to know what everybody is going through. Amber would have that conversation with everybody and just give you a summarized um, dashboard that, hey, the 5 people who are unhappy, I think you should talk to them this week. These are the 2 people who are on the fence, and these are 50 people who are completely fine.
Hmm.
That does a really good job. I think there are lots of AI automations that can be tied to Slack, that where you can just upload all your policies, and
Yeah.
a chatbot will answer the basic queries.
So that's the HR replacement that you were talking about earlier, right?
Apart from that, ChatGPT is always applicable. I have like 6 consultants that I've trained. So for that particular domain, I'll just be like, yes or no.
Yeah.
Just so that helps.
You've just as an aside here, you mentioned Hacker Earth and you mentioned Kula, both of whom are our competitors. So I'm sure I'm going to hear back from my team saying, we should have policies around this. But no, you should say. I think I'm like I told you before the call, right? I am more on. You should just talk naturally. If you're using Kula, you're using Kula, right? I think it's okay.
I mean, I can't change that, but if you make a better case, and it's also
Oh
healthy
no,
competition,
look,
I think.
I am giving you the freedom to say that you use Kula, but hands down we are better than them, right? I mean, I'm not going to sit down and take that. So we're definitely better, but it's your choice. So
This is for your marketing team to be more out there.
yeah, it is. I mean, which is this very podcast is an effort towards brand awareness. So all right, so you talked about where it's useful, and now we'll talk about flip side. So where was it a total waste of time? And you sort of mentioned this when you talked about people success, but where does the human still beat the machine hands down?
I don't think a lot of people will agree, but for me personally, I absolutely hate AI written emails or any sort of communication. I think they're a big waste of everybody's time. If
Hmm.
something's written in one sentence, people
Yeah,
will try and make it fancy, and I'm like, what the hell am I reading?
yeah.
Just stop the jargon, like stop the buzzwords, get to the point. I don't think communication should be a function of AI as of today. If you can communicate in the most articulate way, which is 4 5 words, do it. The same thing, like any sort of memo should not be written by AI yet. You can take the help in terms of ideas, but it has to have more. Today, even a 12-year-old can tell what AI has written versus what a human has written. So I think the art of writing is beyond AI, because everyone will start sounding the same, and that's kind of sad for humanity.
Yeah, but I'm not too sure if it's beyond because I think we are just maybe a couple of models away from it having some sort of variety in how it speaks.
But you can train it to write like you. You can train it to write like you, but it's not perfect yet.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's also true that perhaps we would prefer to not have an AI generated email. Like I think as a preference, we can have that. Dude, I mean, so many things are changing so fast. I think like I said, it's a couple of months away. Okay, these are the two mandated questions moving away from AI. If you could tattoo one piece of advice on every new people leader's arm, what would it say?
Keep it simple,
Okay.
I would say
Okay,
that.
so this is just a follow through of what you said about people writing very long emails.
Just about generally in life, if any policy you create does not pass the grandma test,
Hmm.
don't release it. Like I usually do this whenever I'm working on a policy or a program or anything. I'll go speak to my mom or anyone at home, and I'll be like, do you understand what I'm saying?
Hmm.
If it is simple enough for people to understand who are not even from the domain, I think good. But I think when we overcomplicate performance policies, appraisal calculations, I don't think people enjoy that, because everyone is already stressed at their work,
Hmm.
everything happening. They don't need another function to kind of complicate what
Yeah.
percentage are they going to get because of these formulae, right? So yeah, keep it simple.
Is that something that you actively involve yourself with? If there
Yes.
are policies, you get into the nitty gritties and try to make it simpler?
Yes, I would. I think majority of my fights with finance or legal or anyone will be that if you can make it simple, just do it. If
And
something can be one click, it should be.
in these fights, what is your success rate like? How many of them have you won?
I think quite a few, I would
Oh,
think. If I can find a good logical, and I'm not afraid to be wrong. So
mhm,
if it's not working out, it's not. But I'll try my best to, make a logical case for it.
got it. Is there something that you think everyone says is important, but you think, honestly speaking, it's very overrated? Obviously, not in life in general, within within HR.
I have come to realize that many people say that being an expert is really important. Like,
Hmm.
specialize in one thing, really become a specialist into one thing, etc., etc. And my honest opinion on this is be a generalist with an expertise. Like, I think it's really important for everyone to know everything about their domain and be good at one aspect of it. But I think it would not be fair on the person to only know one thing about the domain and not have an idea. For example, in people teams, someone who's just doing non-tech and has no idea about tech hiring, people operations, that's not the best way forward for them. They should know everything about the rest of the domain, but have their specialization as non-tech hiring or leadership hiring. I feel that in today's AI world, being a specialist only is overrated. Be a generalist, no more, be more curious, is what I would say.
Got it. Is that because you think you can then step into other domains? So if I'm a generalist, if I'm curious, let's say I'm doing non-tech hiring, and then the company says, "Look, we can't afford two people." So you will then be able to take on the role of tech
Yeah.
hiring as well.
Yeah, you just become more agile and adaptable. You know,
But it's, so that's what. So is it a practical forward-looking thing, or do you think even from a personal satisfaction or whatever, right? Like just being exposed to more things that will help me enjoy my life better or whatever, or is it more future-proofing your job?
I would think both. Like when I have this thought because of like a personal thing where I generally find myself doing a lot of things. But given how the world is moving and the direction in which it's moving, where a lot of roles are bound to be redundant, I feel
Yeah.
it's just more practical way of being. Do not isolate yourself into one thing. It's okay to, know more. Pushing yourself out of the comfort zone is okay.
So in that context, before we started recording, you're telling me about other things, other interests of yours. Do you care to tell the audience what else you're involved with apart from your day-to-day job?
In 2022, my best friend and I started a cafe in Goa called Gold
Mm-hmm.
Spot. And that was just purely out of passion. It's not something where we think we are going to make millions or anything of that sort. It's just purely out of passion. It's a sort of small, tiny cafe that's run by my mother now. We
Mm-hmm.
actually have two. It's called Cafe Gold Spot and Gold Spot Canteen. And
Mm-hmm.
my mother pursued her diploma in culinary arts at the age of 55.
Oh, very nice.
She heads the kitchen there,
Mm-hmm.
and so this was it was just one of the things that I thought, why not? If I don't do it now, how many years am I going to wait?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if that's something I want to pursue, but it's an interesting thought that all of us have had at some point. Let's start a cafe of sorts. So we did that, and we got a amazing team to run it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going well. Apart from that, yes, I mean, whenever I get the chance, I'd like to travel, go on treks, and like I said, grow a few tomatoes here and there.
Yeah. Is there an interesting story behind Cafe Gold Spot? Why the name?
It was when I was in college, I used to listen to this band called Gold Spot, and
I
they had
see.
like, do you know them?
No, I don't.
You should check them out. Very interesting songs, and I would really vibe to that. And there
Mm-hmm.
used to be a drink when I was like
Yeah,
very
that
little,
time.
the
Yeah,
orange bottle,
correct. Yeah,
and the area that Gold Spot is in, old quarters in Panjim, which
I
is
see.
like it's the Portuguese houses and all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
we wanted to maintain a 90s vintage vibe.
I see. Very good. So I had a question which sort of it asks itself now. The question is, if you weren't in HR, what would you be doing? Is it running the cafe or is there something else?
So many things. I would probably even have a farm. See, I think the gist of this conversation is that I don't think we should limit ourselves to anything. Like,
Hmm.
why should it just be that if you were not a people leader, what would you be? You can still be many things, right? You still have some time off. You can start writing, you can start getting certified on many things. Don't put yourself in a box, is what I would say.
Maybe those are, I don't know, you may regard them as hobbies, but as a profession, would you have a go-to thing, you think?
Maybe I would build another SaaS. I don't know.
Okay, I see the founder itch there.
Yeah, maybe that could be a thing. Maybe it could be a farm. I mean, there are a couple of ideas here and there.
Oh, the spectrum is very, very wide here. You're saying farm and then you're saying SaaS. Like really, in my mind, they're like completely opposite ends of the
Yeah, I
spectrum.
mean,
But
I really have to think and pick one, but yeah, there are a few ideas.
talking about hobbies, you also mentioned books you read that influenced, in fact, your career choice. Is there a book or a podcast that sort of rewired your brain about people and work? Something that you couldn't stop thinking about it for weeks?
So when it comes to books, actually have so I was not much of a reader and I only got into reading a little late in my life. And when I did, I started getting really inspired by so many books. I think one book that everyone should read, and I gift people this book myself during Christmas, Ramadan, is The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. It's an absolute important 100-page book, which was like mind altering for me. It was a very simple book about life philosophy. The other book is Radical Candor by Kim Scott, which was gifted to me by Tanmay and Varun before
Mm-hmm.
I did InFeedo.
Uh-huh.
And that's
That is
just,
your onboarding, is it?
yeah, sort of like that. And that is just about having difficult conversation. And the gist of the book is you only have or you only give hard feedback to people you care about. So it's a good thing for me to say that, hey, Jayant, you did a good job with the podcast, but I think you could have improved. Because if I don't care, I would just be like, let's move on. So that's kind of the gist, radical candor, that you give feedback, but have empathy behind. Don't
Yeah.
be an asshole about it. And which other book? Another book that I think people should read is Behave by Robert Sapolsky. An absolute gem when it comes to understanding psychology. A cliche book I would also recommend is
Yeah.
No Rules Rules, Netflix. I think in today's market, every founder should read it to understand how to retain good talent. And the book also talks about simplification of general processes and how to run a company. So
Hmm.
yeah.
The Netflix thing, then I'll pick up on. They have this famous thing of we are not a family, we are a team, right? Is that something you subscribe to? Is that something you also implement?
Yeah, 100%. I think early on, um, it's very clear that we're a sports team. Exactly how it would be, right? You choose the best players, you replace players, and that's how it should be. And it's not out of spite that
Yeah.
you let go of somebody or hire somebody. We are here to achieve a goal, it's not a charity. So it should be looked at with that spirit of sportsmanship, which is really important. That people should know if they're performing well. People should always want to, improve. I 100% subscribe to that.
And that and radical candor, especially when you've been in a position to implement
Yeah.
those kinds of philosophies, is that what you've done? You'd say in this company and the previous company.
With InFeedo, 100%. I think everybody
Mm-hmm.
breathes that. You
Mm-hmm.
speak to anybody at InFeedo, it's ingrained in every single
Mm-hmm.
person. With Aftershoot, we're still, in my opinion, we're still building the culture. It's been
Mm-hmm.
6 months and we're still figuring out what's right and what's wrong for us. I don't think culture is a copy paste situation, right? What worked for InFeedo will not work for Aftershoot just magically. And I don't want to say that, oh, in 6 months I was able to kind of,
They had a lot of radical candor
yeah,
with me.
everybody's like perfect. No, that's not the case. There's a lot of work to be done. I'm prepared. We're hiring a bunch of experts, and we're very confident about the direction we're going. So, yeah, it's something that will build itself.
Now, is there? I would like to know the silliest reason someone was not hired, or someone decided to withdraw from their application process across your different roles.
I think startups alone would have led to deaths of too many grandparents because the number of
Yeah.
times I've heard my grandma passed away, which is why I
Yeah.
cannot join. And once we got 3 emails with the exact same line that my grandpa or grandma passed away. And
Mm,
we're like, who are you fooling? So
yeah.
I would think that's the silliest. I think people should stop using that.
Yeah, this is people who decided to withdraw. The first part where people were not, someone was not hired. Anything come to mind?
I don't think I should say this, but there was a case where it was somebody's ex, so it didn't make sense.
Did they become exes in the process, the application
I
process,
hope
or were they
not.
already?
I hope not. I didn't dig too much into it.
I don't know if the ATS captures this as the reason, but that should be an interesting drop down to have reason for rejection, and then
I hope it's not used more than once.
is there a an overused phrase in HR or in startup hiring that you would ban forever?
Oh, yeah. One, we needed this role as of yesterday.
So you're promising me that you've never used that or some phrase
I
similar to
want
that.
to ban it. I want to ban my hiring managers from saying it.
I see.
Like, be more
Okay.
proactive.
What do you think is the ideal time? How far ahead should I plan?
I think there are some things that come up on the go, which is fine. But I think when you do plan for the quarter, you can probably, the initiatives that are happening. You can always kind of have a buffer, in my opinion. Startups can't have people on wait
Yeah,
staff or whatever that is, like on
yeah,
the bench, let's say.
yeah,
But I think people should always have an idea. That's one. And second, something I truly believe that startups should always be hiring. There have to be certain roles that you should constantly be building relationships, always hiring, always scouting. You can never, at no point in my last 10 years, have I been able to say that I'm not looking out first.
yeah.
I'm always hiring, always. Yeah.
How much of this you think, because when we talk to HR teams, a lot of the blame goes to the hiring, the hiring manager, the hiring teams. Justifiably so, right? Because the requisition comes from them. But is there something that you can do as a company or the talent function can do to make this more seamless?
Like for us, what we do is at the start of every quarter, we roll out like a hiring form of sorts that,
I
hey,
see.
think about all the possibilities, all the cases, all the people at risk, and share your roles that you want to hire for. We then publish these that
Ah,
these are the roles you have subscribed for. Is it yes or no? And we tell them to rate it in order of priority.
I see.
So we know more or less what it looks like. And we also tell them the form also has by when do you want this person to join?
Uh-huh.
1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. So we know what we are dealing with. I think that really helps with a roadmap for the hiring team.
Yeah. So you're saying that has streamlined the process basically.
I think it makes it a little more predictable. And Jayant, let's like we can't lie that there will still be roles that are
Yeah.
peasy roles, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it kind of makes it a little more predictable.
Got it. There's only one section left of the podcast. These are quick fire questions. So the lightning round. So I'm going to ask you, and then whatever comes right top of your head. Would you rather start every workday with a 6 a.m. workout that makes you feel invincible, or sleep in and roll into work whenever you want?
Oh no, the first one. Anyway, that's my routine. I try to wake up
Okay.
by 7:30 a.m. and go to the gym.
Okay. Very good. Communication style. Would you rather have all your meetings be voice notes you can listen to at 2x speed, or never have another Slack message and everything is face to face?
The voice note bit, or rather, Slack messages are better than meetings.
Okay. Okay, good. Would you rather be the person who always has the answer or always has the right question?
Right question. Being curious is far more important.
Okay, good. And outside of work, would you rather spend your weekend binge watching a show everyone's talking about, or disappear into the mountains with zero cell service?
Mountains. I mean, if I find a good show, then I end up watching it on the flights.
Okay,
So
but it's
I
not
travel
like a
so much.
weekend,
No,
Saturday afternoon to Sunday
I like
night
to use it off screen as much as possible. You see me out of the house or with the
at the
plants
cafe.
or at the cafe or waiting tables at the cafe or swimming or something else, more outdoors.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Last question on leadership style. Would you rather be loved by your team but secretly doubted about leadership, or be the team's favorite but your team thinks you're a bit intimidating? So would people above or people
Can I
below?
say all of the above at some point or
No,
the
no, no,
other?
no. You have to choose. Whatever comes to your mind first. So would you want to be your, people who report you their darling, or do you want to sort of be courted by your exec team?
I think the people that you work with should like you more. You should be like
So the
that's
people who report to you.
yeah. Correct.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Okay. Good. All right. That brings us to the end of this podcast. It was lovely interaction. I see we're within time as well, so that's great. So thanks, Sameera. Thanks a lot for doing this, and I will certainly have the marketing team reach out to you about your assistant platform, your ATS, and we will be sure to not use the word AI anywhere in the email, and maybe that'll help convince you to try us out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jen. It was a lot of fun. Kudos to Aishwarya for writing some amazing questions. Lovely speaking to you. And yeah, I look forward to the email or a cold call.
No, no, no cold call. We will, yeah, we'll just send you an email with no mention of AI.
Okay, cool.
All right. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you.